What is up, guys? In today's video, I will be playing 24 hours of Risk of Rain Returns to try to become the best player that I can. This video took a really long time to make, so be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stick around to the end so that I can make more quality content like this. Anyways, let's get on with the video. Just some things you should know before we start the video. Risk of Rain Returns is a 2D action roguelike with platforming elements. The ultimate goal is to kill Providence and escape from the planet Petrichor 5, where you're stranded and have to collect loot from the ship. Yeah, that's really it. Let's get into it. When you first start your run, you're given the choice between two survivors, Commando and Huntress. In my first run, as shown here, I'm playing as Commando, and I quickly grasped the core mechanics of this game. Kill monsters, get items, go through the teleporter, kill the boss, rinse and repeat until you get to the final stage, and eventually kill the final boss, which stay tuned for that at the end of the video. Also, each survivor has 4 unique abilities. A primary, which is like an M1 that you can constantly use. A secondary that has a cooldown, but is M2. Then you have a utility with shift that lets you traverse the map quicker or dodge attacks from enemies, and a special, which is a very important attack that defines a character's moveset. So both the Commando and the Huntress have pretty unique movesets, although they're probably the two most similar and basic characters compared to the others. But I'll be showcasing at least 4 characters, so in this video anyway. So yeah. Also, important to note, there's different item rarities. So we have commons, which are white, greens, which are uncommon, and reds, which are legendary, and then the most powerful items. And common items are typically made to like stack up, like you get a bunch of common items, and they're really powerful, like they stack well. So like 10% crit chance obviously stacks really well. Or like something that increases your damage when monsters are at high health. So plus 90% damage when monsters are at high health obviously stacks really well. Anyways, coming up, we're gonna see our first teleporter boss. So yeah, the teleporter bosses start out pretty easy, and by the end of the runs, you're usually fighting multiple at once or a very powerful elite boss. Because there's elite enemies, which I think I show in this clip. They have like different colors, and they have a special icon next to their health bar that gives them a special effect. For example, blazing, which makes them like make a fire trail wherever they go. Third, there's also special items from killing bosses, but those are usually like pretty rare. You might not see them in an entire run, but you also might see them. It just really depends up to luck. Anyways, I'm just gonna wrap up this teleporter event, and then we'll head to stage 2. So for stage 2, nothing really that insane happened. So I'll just skip to the TP pretty fast. But I also want to mention that Risk of Rain is actually made by 4 developers. One of them being the music creator. And also the music in this game is awesome. So here, just take a listen. So here I demonstrate why the magma worm is one of the easiest and also one of the hardest bosses in the game. The magma worm takes an insane amount of damage, but dies really fast to any attack that pierces. It's almost like the worm bosses in Terraria, if you know. However, this death is just embarrassing. Like, how did I die to this worm? Like, I've gotten a lot better since then, guys, I swear. So for my second run, I choose to play Huntress. and I do a little bit better. But honestly, I still die really quick. Like, I don't even know how I'm this bad at this point. Like, I've gotten so much better since those first clips. I am serious, guys. You will see at the end. So stay tuned. I will improve. You will see the clips will get better. We'll stop dying on stage 2, I swear. I promise you guys. But for now, I will do a Shrine of the Mountain, which doubles the amount of power that they can put into the boss, which usually means you fight 2 bosses or you fight an elite boss if you are to be fighting more than like 5. And I absolutely get shredded, unsurprisingly. Alright, in past me's defense, I'm actually playing pretty well here. I just should not have been doing Shrine of the Mountain this early on, man. Anyways, after a couple more runs with Commando and Huntress, I finally unlock another character, the Enforcer, who is way cooler and way more unique than these other 2 guys. Alright guys, so in this clip I'm going to show you guys Enforcer. He's a lot more defensive than Commando or Huntress, which mostly focus on attacking, attack speed, strafing, blah blah blah. Enforcer, pretty much all of his abilities deal knockback or stun so that he can spam his M1 and stay in the same place typically. Unless you're using his alternate secondary, which, guys, I don't know if you guys know, there's alternate abilities by completing Providence Trials, which are special challenges that you can do. After you unlock survivors, you can unlock more and more Providence Trials, and once you complete them all, you unlock a special trial called Judgment, which you could complete as any survivor, and it allows you to basically unlock a very special, usually pretty rare, character skin. So, but the main thing that they do is they give you these alternate abilities. So I'm using the alternate primary and the alternate secondary here, which the normal primary is a shotgun, and here we have a grenade launcher. And then the alternate secondary is a shield tackle, while normally Enforcer would just have like a little like shield bash that hits enemies backwards and stuns them. He also has an alternate special, which allows him to like spray shotgun shells in all directions. But I'm using the default special because I like it better, and it's way harder to unlock than the other 2 because you have to get more survivors to like clear a path to it. Also, there's different skins, such as the Enforcer skin. I mentioned this skin from Judgment for completing that Providence Trial, but you can get a skin from each survivor has their own Providence Trial that gives a skin, and then there's 4 default skins, which are usually like their normal color, then like red, green, or blue, or sometimes like a yellow, red, blue, or whatever color isn't the survivor. So that helps in multiplayer if you're like distinguishing between multiple people. Anyways, I am about to get absolutely shredded by a regular enemy, and it is terrible. I swear, guys, the clips will get better. I will get better at this game. I beat the game, I think. Maybe, maybe not. Stay tuned to find out. So in this particular run, I'm running Engineer. At this point, I have grinded a lot of Providence Trials, unlocked a bunch of survivors, Acrid, Bandit, obviously Engineer, still have Enforcer, Commando, Huntress. A lot of progress has been made. So I'll start out by talking about Engineer. So Engineer is basically like a defensive, I guess I'd call it like an ecosystem. You place yourself in the middle. You place your turrets to either side to defend you. Then you play landmines in front of the turrets to defend them. And then you shoot at anything that comes near the turrets. So yeah. Obviously for abilities, we've got the primary ability, which is a grenade launcher. The alternate primary is like a mortar. You can use it while moving, but other than that, it's really not worth using. The secondary We've got landmines. You can either have 10 regular landmines or 3 shockwave mines, which shockwave mines are different because what you can do is you play them right in front of the turret and it shoots the enemy really far backwards. So obviously it doesn't do as much damage, but you can get a lot of connections with your turrets. There's also the utility, which is pretty useful to his kit, which is the missiles that come out of his back, which is about the least defensive utility that I've ever seen for such a defensive character. Having missiles as your utility. Like, he's an engineer. Like, he's all about, like, building stuff, and then he's got a turret. Missiles coming out of his back. And then, obviously, special. Revolutionary. He's got turrets. Probably one of the best specials. Any class that would have turrets would be amazing, but it's great for engineer with all of his turtling abilities. And the alternate special, which I have yet to unlock, but I've seen clips of it, it's basically a giant laser of death. At some point, I'll probably make a showcase talking about the engineer in full detail, so stay tuned for that. And also, I'll talk about the other characters that I got. So I got Acrid, which is a poison-based, I guess, melee range hybrid. Because he has some, like, spitting attacks, and then he's got, like, some scratching and some, like, jump attacks. So he's pretty versatile. And he inflicts some debuffs, which is really good. And I don't know all the abilities off the top of my head for Acrid. But I know his primary is, like, a scratch that does, like, has like 3-hit combo. Then his secondary is either it's a spit or like a bite, I think, or maybe that's Risk Rain 2. Don't trust what I'm saying, guys. I'm going crazy. But in summary, Acrid's abilities are very poison based because he's supposed to be in lore. He's like a mutant Lemurian that's like poisoned or whatever. He has poison instead of fire because Lemurians can shoot fire. I guess they just don't for the most part in this game. Elder Lemurians actually do. They have like that little fire attack. But the regular Lemurians can technically shoot fireballs. It's shown in the second game. But they don't in this game because ranged attacks are OP in 2D. And melee attacks suck in 2D or in 3D. So obviously they had to buff the Lemurian a little bit because it was just not a threat. Anyways, there's also the Bandit, which is... He's a simple character, but his abilities are really good together. So he has either a shotgun or a whip, which the shotgun does more DPS and you can spam it, but the whip pierces so you can hit multiple enemies at once. I personally prefer the whip because I like to be able to hit in a large group rather than just target like one tank. Because oftentimes I find there's like a Clayman sitting in front of like every single boss. So, I prefer that. And then there's also Dynamite, which is pretty random, but it's also really cool. It's an AoE explosion, pretty standard, but you throw it, and then his special, which we'll talk about in a second, lets you reset your cooldowns. So you can just kind of spam it. Anyways, there's his utility, which is either a smoke bomb, which turns you invisible, or a flashbang, which can blind enemies, which prevents them from doing anything. And those are useful so you can either get away or just tank damage and like move to a vantage point, but mostly run away. Come on. I'm not that good at this game, man. So you run away, and then you have a revolver, which is probably the defining feature of Bandit. You usually want to go for kill shots with the revolver, because if you get a kill with this default revolver, all your cooldowns reset, so you can just throw more dynamite, go invisible, go somewhere else, shoot something else, and then rinse and repeat. Or, with the alternate revolver, you kill enemies, which gives you a stacking buff meter, which increases your damage, and there's a timer. If the timer runs out, then you lose the buffs. But, if you keep killing enemies with the revolver, it never runs out. Also, just noting here, I got really, really far in this run. There are 6 stages in total. Stage 5 is this, like, sand, limestone, whatever you want to call it, Temple of the Elders map. probably one of the hardest levels. Obviously, the last level's harder, but I'd say this level is really annoying, especially when you're fighting a frenzied Lynx totem with Engineer. Not fun. So, obviously, I die here. It's pretty sad. But don't worry. This next run is something special. So stay tuned for that. So this run begins just like any other run. Playing as Bandit, using pretty much full default moveset. Nothing particularly special, but something just feels off about this run. I know this is the run. I basically said to myself, I'm gonna stop playing after this run. This is gonna be the run. So let's see. By stage 2, the RNG is just insane. Like, I'm pretty sure I had 3 reds on stage 2. That is ridiculous. And one of them was Ceremonial Dagger. That's like insane. AoE, just absolute shreds. And then, after that, by like stage 3, the RNG just kept getting better and better. Stage 4, it was just like, a god run. It just couldn't have been better. Like, it was just meant to be a win there. But I also want to note, on stage 4, I use a little bit of ingenuity with the Lost Doll equipment. I grab a bunch of temporary rapid mitosis, and then what I do is I use it to spam the Lost Doll equipment, so that I just do a bunch of damage by sacrificing my health. And those temporary items last a lot longer than I thought. I thought they only lasted like a minute and they all went away. But it's 1 minute for each, and then it goes away systematically. So guys, the interesting thing is, I got to stage 5, and it honestly was easier than stage 4. Like, the enemies were not hard at all, to be completely honest. And then, by the time I was at stage 6, like, my RNG was already so good at the beginning that my build was just unstoppable, and it only got better from there. Because while I was in the ship, I got a bunch of loot. Alright, so at this point, I am on the final stage. I will not be doing that much commentary on this, especially for the final boss. I'm just going to give that disclaimer. I'm going to just let the final boss pretty much just play itself out. It is a bit of a long boss fight, but it is a very cool boss. I will say that. I'm also going to talk about key cards and how they work, because at this point, I did not know, but I recently learned that how they work is there's 4 components of the ship that are locked behind keycard doors, and if you get 4 key cards, that supposedly there are 4 key cards. I've never seen 4. I've only seen like 2 or 3. And you can open the armory, the cabin, the medical bay, and the like storage area, and each of them have their own benefits. The storage area has a bunch of chests. The med bay has, I'm really not sure what the med bay has. I haven't been in there. The cabin gives you a free equipment, and then the armory gives you a giant cannon that you can use against the boss. Overall storage is the best one, and then armory, and then cabin, and then med bay. At least from my knowledge. I'm not really sure what med bay does. But I'm also going to say the enemies here behind the blast doors really aren't that challenging, except the problem is there are so many enemies, and by this point I'm like shaking, like from head to toe, man. Like this was pretty stressful, I would say. Looking back on it, it was pretty hard. It was just, I had a god run. Like, the items were carried for a lot of it. Like, my skill probably wouldn't have been able to do this just with skill. This was all items. And in this ship, speaking of items, I acquire an ATG Mark II and some other goodies too that we're going to use on the boss. So we'll see how this plays out. So I'm going to take you to the final boss right now. So I'm going to stop commentating. Let's see what's up. Holy crap. Did it. I did it. Let's go. Alright, let's see the end cutscene. What's this I'm hearing? No!